Welcome everyone. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. We at Malfa are very grateful to be hosting tonight's event for you all, and we're also very humbled and excited about your interest in the Lacebark building that we are officially launching tonight. My name's Andy Nichols. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm the New South Wales Development Director for Malfa, and it brings me great pleasure to be here tonight and to introduce this magnificent project of ours to you all. Where to start from my perspective? It's been a bit of a journey for us. I mean, as it is with any project. But before I give you an overview, I guess, of our story and what's led us to the beautiful design of the Lacebark building, I just wanted to point out what the events will be for tonight's proceedings. We have a number of speakers that will come up and present to you all. We have William Smart from SDS, who is the architect of Lacebark building. He'll be presenting. We also have Louise Pearson from Aspect Studios. She's our landscape architect, who's responsible for the amazing landscape design that graces both the Lacebark building and the second building, the Banksia building behind it. We also have, from Finding Infinity, Ross Harding, who's our sustainability expert, and that's a key part of, I would say, all our projects at Malfa, but more so with these two buildings that we are presenting here tonight. And obviously talking about the Lacebark one as the key focus. We'll also hear from Malfa's Senior Development Manager, Jan Vanderberg. This is Jan's baby, this project. I did say to him I wouldn't say that, but I couldn't help myself. Jan has been in the trenches on this project for a number of years now, and tonight marks a key milestone on the journey for delivering these magnificent buildings. At the end of the speakers' presentations, we will throw the mic to all of you. If any of you have any questions, by all means, please don't be afraid. We're here to answer them. We'll do our best to answer all of them. And if we can't, we'll take them offline, and we'll be sure to get back to you with the accurate response. All right, Malfa and Norwest. Look, I wanted to start tonight by just giving you a brief overview, I guess, of Malfa's vision for Norwest. For some of you who don't know, Malfa has been the owner of a large part of Norwest, actually all of it, going back to the early days, that being the early 1990s, when Malfa acquired the first 377 hectares that was once an apple orchard farm. And since that time, over the decades, we've slowly developed out Norwest. It morphed from agricultural land into a business park, as many of you or most of you would know, a very classic American-style business park that operated very successfully. And then it moved from there into, I guess, a genuine mixed-use precinct, one that blended commercial buildings and a business park, obviously, with residential living. And as we look into the future, we're seeing another change on the near horizon. And I think one of the key elements that marks that change is the arrival of the two metro stations that we have out here now servicing Norwest, that being Norwest Metro Station and also Bella Vista Metro Station. So two excellent pieces of mass infrastructure that connects this site with the city, and ultimately, I was actually just talking to William about this, ultimately it will orbit, it'll provide an orbital network around Sydney. Infrastructure that I personally think is long overdue for Sydney, given that we are of global city status. But great to see it here and great to see it being delivered. So going back to the more high-level description, and there is a point to it, it segues into obviously our vision for Norwest Quarter, but I just wanted to touch on that for us out here, our bigger vision, and again it touches on that reference to the metro station, but our bigger vision out here is that we see Norwest becoming a city. And I don't mean to say that to scare you in any way. It is just the natural evolution of this place. And again, it's reinforced by the arrival of the metro stations. So that mass transit will anchor and support, ultimately, a city. And we see that city operating just to my right over here, across the road from the Norwest Metro Station. And for us at Malfa, we think about, well, what is a city, and how best, how can cities best operate and function, and what do they mean for people, particularly in an area that's evolving and growing constantly as this is, and changing quite rapidly. So some of you may be aware of our vision. That was really to create a smart city. Now, some of you may have heard that phrase. Smart cities mean different things to different people all around the world. They seem to be popping up everywhere. But fundamentally for us, a smart city, I think, is effectively something that connects. So it connects people with place. It connects people with transport. It connects people technically and technologically. So I can't speak. It connects people with each other. It provides the backbone for community. It connects people with nature. So there are elements that are embedded within the thinking of the future smart city that is in our DNA at Malfa, that I believe has found its way into the Norwest Quarter development. So that's attributes of, I would say, smartness. And I actually just wanted to point something out as well. It's absolute coincidence that our main architects on both buildings are William Smart and Bates Smart. It wasn't a prerequisite to have smart in their title. I'm banging on about smartness, but that was a pure coincidence. But it's those key attributes of the smart city that I think have infiltrated our thinking and I think have been delivered beautifully in the Norwest Quarter development, particularly in stage 1, and will do so throughout all the remaining stages, to which there's probably going to be 4. The Norwest Quarter development is comprised of 9 towers, and you can see that on the image behind me here. Stage 1, Lacebark building here to my left, the Banksia building, the Bates Smart building to my right, and then the remaining 7 buildings represented effectively as a rounded square or rectangle adjacent. 9 buildings comprising 864 apartments. They'll be built out over about a 10-year period. And of course the first stage, and the reason that we're all here tonight is to hear about the first stage and the Lacebark building here. So going back to those comments I made about the smart city, not only is it about connectedness, but for us it's very much around well-being. We're not a developer that just creates, buildings or apartments or townhouses and runs. We've been out here for nearly 4 decades, and we will be out here for another 3 at least at this point. We are a developer that is going nowhere. We have a long history here and we have a long future here. The apartments and the townhomes and the products that we deliver out here are, of course, very important to us, and we pride ourselves on the quality that we deliver. But for us, a development isn't successful if the ground plane isn't connecting with the people that use it. And they are not only the residents that buy into these buildings, they are the visitors that use the public spaces, they are the workers that work in the retail or the commercial. It's everyone. So if our ground plane isn't singing and connecting with the users of it, for us, we failed. It's almost, and William will hate me saying this, that the buildings and the apartments are secondary. That's a contentious comment. Of course they're not. We're hugely into the evolution of our product design and we're huge on quality, but our ground plane is a very key part of all of our thinking and all of our design response. And I really wanted to highlight that point, because ultimately, whether it's a smart city that we're trying to develop, or some townhomes, or a series of beautiful apartment towers, ultimately it's about the well-being of the users that use these places that is of utmost importance to us. And so we go to at great lengths to create places that resonate and connect the users. And I think that's also evident in the quality of the project team that we have got on board to deliver this project for us. And that's a good segue. William Smart from SDS Studio. William has an evolving and ever-increasing reputation, certainly nationally in architecture, and I would argue internationally as well. He is delivering beautiful buildings. The landscape architecture that we've delivered here from Aspect Studio, again, we've treated that with utmost care, and the consultant that we have on board for that is also of national, holds a national significance. We've also brought on an urban designer to assist us to get that ground plane working. And all of our consultants will talk to this in more detail shortly. Our environmental response here, I just want to give you a little statistic. We are priding ourselves in leading the charge as a developer in Australia with environmental living and our environmental response. So things like zero carbon, you hear about this stuff in the media. We are genuinely trying to pursue that, and your buildings will be that. As a base case, the average dwelling generates 11 tonnes of carbon a year. Our apartments will generate 0. So that's a huge stat in a world where environmental discussion is at the forefront of most of our minds. So we hold ourselves in, we like to challenge ourselves in that aspect and in every aspect, and ultimately we're trying to set new benchmarks, whether it be for architecture, design, environmental living, community connectedness, the social values that comes with a development. We are always trying to challenge ourselves and better ourselves in what we're trying to deliver. I could go on and on and on, but it's time for me to hand the mic over to William Smart. Thanks for your time.
Hi, I'm William Smart, and I'm a bit disappointed that the city wasn't named after me. The Smart City. It's the first I've heard of that today. I'm gutted. I wanted to introduce the Lacebark project to you and talk to you a little bit about how we designed it and why it is the way it is. Firstly, the history of this site is it was an old brickworks through here, and they made bricks and roof tiles, and for that reason we thought to bring brick as the primary construction material for the building. And it's made out of real bricks, not tiles, not concrete to look like bricks, it's real bricks. And we feel that has a great resonance with the history of this particular site. And we felt as though this project and this building is the first of the run in that kind of super block. And therefore it's very important we got it absolutely right. The process is trying to think about how you would put a building on this particular piece of land. And you can see we have Solent Circuit running down here, Natura Rise in this point through here. And we start by analysing the pattern of the urban fabric and then marrying that with the movement of the sun and the wind. And what happens the sun always rises in the east and always sets in the west, but what happens in summer is it's much more overhead, almost directly overhead. And when it sets in summer, it sets southwest and it rises southeast, not in the east. And in winter it does the opposite. The sun rises in the northeast and sets in the northwest. And we can use this elevation of the sun to introduce passive solar design principles to the building. And that was one of the core aspects to the design. We're also very mindful of getting the optimum balance between privacy within the units and outlook onto the surrounding areas and over onto the lake, and wanted to really focus on that. So in shaping the building and knowing the height of that, we really broke it into two and ran a corridor through the centre of the building that has windows at both ends. And it's one straight line through. So when you come out the lift, which is a deeper part of the plan, you'll go left or right and always end with a window that's full height. I like that way of circulating, and I like that sort of connection to the outdoors from the public areas. We then slipped the building one forward and one backwards to kind of get more cross ventilation around the ends of the building and to provide more opportunities for views out in different directions. And then we introduced these slots through the building, and they will bring light into the bedrooms in principle, and then in between them array a series of 4 balconies on that side, for example. And then what we do is try to make these big blade walls that I'll explain to you in a moment how they work to block that summer sun in the west. And then we angle these other walls, which are glass, towards the northwest to let the winter sun in. I'll explain how that works. And then we tie that together with a beautiful form that's also developed of how we let that winter sun in and block the summer sun out. Louise is here to talk about the landscape, but for us it's very important that the building emerge from a verdant landscape filled with trees. And we want to not just have the green outlook, but to start to introduce places that could be habitats for birds and other animals in the area, but try to bring that fauna back into the area and have a mixture of native and exotic trees and plants that run through the area. And then on the northern end we have these signature buildings we call the drums, and they'll be housing the communal facilities for one and a retail offering for the other building. But we'll really start to embrace the urban landscape, turn the corner beautifully. They have green rooftops on them, one of which is accessible and the other one is just a green rooftop that's non-accessible. So just sort of in the planning of this is kind of generally that principle of how the sun will work. So if I take the morning sun through here, in summer the angle of the sun is like this, and it scoots along the surface of the glass through here and doesn't come in and hits that solid wall from there, which protects the windows here and the next balcony from the sun. That's what happens first thing in the morning, and then the sun goes overhead during the day and very little sun comes into the apartments. In winter it does the other way around. It rises in the northeast, comes in through that angled wall, which is angled in the perfect direction, and you get morning sun in winter to warm up your apartment. And then it's much lower in the sky, so the north-facing balconies through here will have sun coming into them in winter but not summer. And then the other principle happens in the afternoon on this side of the building. And then in plan, this is a normal apartment. You have generally a balcony and a bedroom and a living room. It's a bit hard to see from that there. Living room, and bedroom and lounge. And the sun comes in through here. But if we angle these walls, we can get more sun in onto the balcony. And if we splay that wall out, we can actually bring that sun into the apartment. Now, we believe that if we're getting 2 hours of sun at greater than 1 square metre hitting the surface of the glass, that will have a significant impact on warming the apartment in winter. And so that's generally the principle, is what happens in the afternoon is all the sun hits that part of the balcony in summer, and in winter it comes into the apartment generally through there. So that's kind of generally the design of it. This is a principle that our practice has been working on for many years and developing and honing, and this is the best version of it we've done. We've optimized the angles for the sun. We've had a developer in Malta that's been very committed to this idea of passive solar design, which means you don't have to put blinds up or down or adjust shutters or have ways of blocking your outdoor aspect. This is another building called Pippi in Bondi, which has a similar kind of principle and also a similar material palette, so white brick and then exposed concrete in the balconies through there. And then in addition to the white brick and the exposed concrete, which will be stained to a white colour, we're going to have some porphyry stone, which is a beautiful volcanic stone on the lower part of the building, a slightly purplish hue. And then we have black bricks through here, and there's some examples on the tray to the side of the black bricks that form these drums and the staircases through the building, and they're shown through here. Just sort of wanting to talk about architecture, so I try to make this buildings where the architecture and what happens inside of that, like the furniture that lives on balconies and the curtains that people have on their windows, they come into harmony with each other. And that's created by making very strong moves with the architecture and then balancing that with lots of glass. And this is examples in Harold Park, Perth, and in Dulwich Hill of strong architecture and life coming together as one. We also love curves, and this building is a lot more curves. This is a project in Bondi where we have sculpted curves balconies, off-white concrete through there, and terracotta on the facade. And then we have sculpted balconies through here, and another building for Mirvac with the balconies being the primary form of expression. And I just wanted to show to you, this is a project in Randwick called Newmarket, and this is another version of the balcony. We have a different one through here, but the floor plan is that you have a living room through here, you have this shape here, so it cants out to get that winter sun on a western orientation, and then we move the dining space over to the side, and that's the kind of effect you go. It works beautifully when it's a flush transition from inside to out, because you kind of move through that space. The other thing that you don't realise when you see the floor plan is you're inclined to look out this way a bit more, so off to the side and out to the north, so it feels more expansive in its view, and you tend to want to sit down this end of the building. And then this is a very, very compact one in Bondi at the Pippi project, where you can see the same kind of principle that opens out to the side through there. Building composition, so we just have basements down below ground, we have retail on ground floor over 2 levels, and then apartments above that. And then these are just some of the key moments to it. So really dramatic entry. As I mentioned before, it's all in real brick, so it's not tiles, but the real thing. This is the porphyry stone down below that extends around the building and is combined with brick. Double height spaces, double height foyer, very dramatic through there. And then as you come round through the side of the building, it extends into a 2-storey high retail offering. Looking in from, this is the space between the 2 buildings facing Solent Circuit. There's a sweeping staircase that goes up through here. A lot of greenery in the space, and I think tonight's such a beautiful night out here. You can see and imagine how wonderful that's going to be to have this retail offering amongst gardens. You can see the benefit of having solid balconies through here is that you get to look out, but people can't see into your apartment. And we have made these low, so it's not up at the metre high, but it has the brick lower and then railings above that so you can see through. And this height of 750 is the optimum distance of being able to sit in your living space and look out from a sofa and not just have a wall in front of you. You can see over the top, but you get a very strong sense of privacy. These are the angled walls we're talking about, so that lets the sun in through there and blocks it out in the summertime. This is the drum at the end of the building, and behind here we have the common facilities. So that's a great asset to the building. It opens onto a courtyard on top of the other drum space. And then Stephanie Taylor's come here to present a little bit about the interiors. Just as she's coming forward, I'll explain that what we try to do as a practice is we design the internal planning first, and then we design the architecture after that. So we're thinking about how do you break up the apartments, where is the best place to put the 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, how would you want to live in the space, what's the best access to views, and then we try to couple it with the environment, and then we try to put a look around the outside of it. And then the other part of it is we want the whole building to read as one. So this idea of clay and bricks and the history of the site comes through to the interiors as well.
So essentially building on the architecture, so we are completing the architecture by looking at the interior spaces in a holistic way with the architectural expression. So we're taking the key principles of the architecture that William's just gone through here, and we're then applying that to the interior design of the space, and that pulls through all the way through joinery design and detailing. So where we're blocking and stacking, we're using joinery as elements that carve up the space and define space within the interior. We're carving, as you can see, pulling through this vertical line through our vertical finger pulls to joinery. We're scoring and layering by creating this horizontal run through, so that comes through in our joinery elements and the tiles in the bathroom. There's a real play on vertical and horizontal geometry within the interior spaces that are really drawing from the architecture. Our lovely details, so we've got tone-on-tone joinery throughout the space, so a very complementary palette to the exterior finishes, and we're bringing through warm metal detailing as well in our joinery finishes and in our tapware. Thank you. So the entrance of the building, as we just looked at in the render, this is our entrance lobby to Lacebark. It's a beautiful volume, double height space. And what we're doing there, as William mentioned, we're bringing through some of the materials from the architecture and really completing the interior space of this grand entrance lobby. So our porphyry stone will wrap in at a lower level into the building and continue on the floor through to the lift lobby. And within that space, we've got a beautiful curved wall with textured finishes, so really drawing on that beautiful texture of finish. We also have lovely waiting areas of very soft residential style furniture for guests and residents alike to relax and use the space. So these are a few of our first interior concept images that really sort of gave us inspiration to pull through the interior design for Lacebark. So we're looking at, again, the context of the site, so the history of the site and the idea of handmade tiles and bricks and that kind of texture. So we're bringing in a handcrafted feel, we're bringing in a domestic scale, so using the brick format throughout the interior spaces. So in the bathrooms particularly, you'll see a very brick format style tile on the walls, so very delicate, very fine. And that's pulling through to the joinery as well. So these earthy tones. We've got this inspiration picture in the middle that shows a sedimentary layering of earth, some really beautiful, soft, complementary tones there that are coming through in the joinery. And then the timber floorboards and the tiles, which are also very warm and flecked with interest. This is a CGI image of our penthouse apartment. So as you can see, the beautiful light coming in there in the evening, dappled on the beautiful timber floors, so really rich, warm finishes. Quite a restrained palette, but also very complementary in tone on tone. This is our penthouse kitchen, so really beautiful large kitchen backbench with a recess carved in stone. So this idea again of taking clay and forming spaces and forming joinery by carving out elements. And you'll see there we've got the tone-on-tone joinery and then also the island at front, which has an area for bench seating as well, so you can enjoy your breakfasts and your chats with people in the kitchen while you're cooking. And also we haven't skimped on the storage either, so lots of storage to the back bench, the kitchen, above the range hood, and also in the island bench as well. So that was a key consideration for us, was to maximise storage on the project. This is a typical apartment. So again, beautiful living spaces, lots of access to light, lots of connection to nature. And that's one thing we really did consider when we were looking at the space planning of all of the apartments, is ensuring that as soon as you enter your apartment, that you have that connection to the outdoors. So all of the apartments will have beautiful views through from the entry through to a window, and also the same goes for bedrooms as well. This is our typical kitchen, so again that connection to the outdoors. This is showing our darker scheme here with the darker island and the slightly lighter back bench, so just showing there the tone on tone of the joinery design. We've got beautiful appliances specifications throughout as well. Showing here the bathroom, so again drawing on the idea of carving space. So we have the floor tile and the wall tile, albeit at different scales, but quite a domestic scale tile there, but really just emphasizing the fact that the space is being carved out of the same finish. We've got beautiful pelmet lighting, which really adds a softness to the space, as well as around the vanity mirrors. Maximising storage under the basin, so double drawers. In this particular bathroom, this is the master ensuite. And then also behind the mirror cabinets, there's storage there as well with charging and adjustable shelves. And this is the darker scheme. The previous was the lighter scheme, so a little bit cooler, a little bit more of a fleck of interest within the tile as well. But again, that element of it being carved out of one finish. And a typical bedroom. So all bedrooms have a great connection to the outdoors. A lot of them have little balconies as well. So it's really a lovely retreat space to kind of pull back to at the end of the day. Would you like to have a talk on the common spaces?
It's wonderful actually to have a developer that wants to build larger apartments. That's really lovely for us to have, and that's come into the spaces, and storage has been a really strong consideration for that. In the resident lounge, and the amenity on offer is very important to the project. What we wanted to create is this space that could be booked, used, would draw people together, and would be a fun space for all. And these were some of our inspiration pages. This slide here is actually of how we're going to make the brickwork. So the brickwork screen there is called hidden miss bricks. You crisscross them over and you have gaps in between, so it's like a screen that veils the internal areas. And that's how it will present in real life. So you come in, the structure's all suspended off one central column, and then it radiates out like a mushroom. They'd be uplighting onto the space, and these bricks are hung from the roof above. On top of this is a green roof space, so the apartments that are on the north side will look down over that. And then this looks back out onto the retail area, so you get an idea of what's going on in the surroundings. Lots of natural light coming into the space, but you don't feel like you're on show. And then the terrace space had this kind of inspiration again, so very casual. Having furniture that's loose up there was important, as well as built-in elements. There's a barbecue, there's a big sink, there's an outdoor kitchen in those areas as well, so you can really take advantage of that. And this might be a good place to introduce Louise, who'll talk a little bit about some of the landscape, but this kind of quite loose, relaxed feeling in a resort-style outdoor area is what we were seeking for in the space.
Thanks, everyone. So my name's Jan van der Berg. As Andy said, I've been looking after the project for the past couple of years. Amazing to see it come to fruition and to see all of your sort of similar, familiar faces. We started this project over 2 years ago, and we had a series of working groups, and we really took the time to listen to the community. Malfa's been here for so long. We feel that we do understand the local market quite well, but we went on a series of working groups and had a lot of you in here and really heard from you what you wanted to see in the development, on the ground plane, in the apartments, in the amenity, and I think we've been able to deliver something quite special. Ross is unfortunately presenting in Melbourne tonight, so he sent a pre-recorded video to us, and he's just going to talk on sustainability. So I'll let Lisa just play a video.
Hey, I'm Ross Harding from Finding Infinity, and we're the environmental consultants for Norwest. We're based in Melbourne. We've been working on this project for over 2 years now, and we were actually the first consultants engaged on the project. So clearly sustainability is a high priority for Malfa and Norwest. It's been a great experience working with Malfa, William Smart, Bates Smart and Aspect Studios on the project. Together we've been able to integrate as much as we can environmentally. A lot of projects around the world talk about implementing these sorts of environmental initiatives. This project is unique in that we're really doing it. We've been working closely with the architects to maximise the passive design of the apartments, introducing double glazing and great insulation in each of the apartments. The apartments in the end are using around 2/3 less energy than a typical apartment building, and they're pure electric, which means no gas, so they can be powered purely renewably. We're collecting and reusing as much rainwater as we possibly can, and with the efficiency, it allows us to actually have apartments that are about 1/3 less water than a typical. We've included as much solar as we possibly can, and the remaining power is coming from green power. The HVAC systems are very efficient. They're about 40% more efficient than the typical. Also, electric cars are being prioritised on the project, making it easy for people to have electric cars and convert their car park, if they would like, to electric. Residential kitchens have been designed to help eliminate waste and make it really easy for people to avoid waste in the first place. One of the ways we're doing this is through a zero waste supermarket on site, which enables people to basically avoid waste in the first place. Organic waste is being treated on site with worm farms and composting. It's also just a better experience. It's got better natural light, better thermal comfort, better living standards and lower cost of living. We work on a lot of projects both here in Australia and internationally, and I can say honestly, we don't know of any other projects that are integrating as many initiatives as Norwest is in this sort of scale and this building type. We're really excited about working on this project and looking forward to seeing it come to life. Thanks very much.
So as Ross said, he was the first consultant engaged on the whole project, so it sort of talks to the ambitions of this project. We felt that we really had a duty of care on a project of this scale to realise something that was a positive outcome for the environment and for the residents. So we've worked really hard for every decision that goes into the project to be a conscious decision, that's the right decision. And Ross mentioned a few initiatives there. There are a lot more, and there's nothing groundbreaking in terms of the individual initiatives that we're doing, but it's the sum of all of these parts working together as an ecosystem to reduce energy use, reduce water use, and waste as well, and all while reducing the cost of living for you guys as well. So, as Andy said, they use a lot less power. Ultimately, it should mean up to 25% off your running costs for the apartment, which also then flows into levies as well. So. I'll probably skip through this because Ross mentioned most of it, but every decision that goes into it, from the choice of washing machine, dryer, fridge, it's always had sustainability front of mind in making these decisions. And as Andy said, across energy, water and waste and carbon, significant reductions across the board. And ultimately, as I said, saving up to 25% on energy bills. I'll hand over to Louise Pearson of Aspect Studios next, though, just to chat through her landscape design response.
Hi everyone, it's great to see you all here. So it's been a really phenomenal project in terms of its aspirations, in terms of how we've managed that combination of built form and natural space. And really the aspirations of the client have been fantastic. So we're all very excited about it, and I'm sure you've seen the incredible work William's done on the architecture. In terms of the master plan, what we're talking about tonight is this building here. But this master plan has encapsulated also the Banksia building on site, and we have been involved in thinking about what the broader master plan will be. In terms of how the spaces are divided, really this is probably the more urban end. It's the most social, it's got retail, and it's a little bit more active. This is a little bit more passive, so if you buy into this bit, eventually you will get more turf spaces, somewhere to walk your dog, lots of natural spaces throughout. And we had a few key strategies in the landscape. We really thought nature should be big. You know, we're sort of sick of doing polite landscapes. This is about being super green, so we're as green as we can be. And when we plant with purpose. So on the ground floor, on your public domain, everything is 100% native. So it's all native species. A lot of the species are endemic. So we're not just planting for us. We're planting for the little critters, you know, the birds, the bees that live in the area. We thought, really, this is the social space. So it's about making opportunities for people to gather and, you know, just be a community, learn how to be a community. And it's important in all projects, we think, to make sure it's not business as usual. It's about delight, experience, you know, a little bit of unexpected joy. So in terms of the plan, this is our Lacebark building. And this is Banksia here. And one of the key features in the public domain really is this space above, which we've called the wild green. So it is a beautiful green backdrop, and because of the fall of the land, this is quite flat, and the site is quite steep and raises to the road behind. So when you're in this space, you're really looking at an abundance of green, and you're a little bit protected from the road. And if you've got kids playing down here, it feels a bit protected as well. And then we have retail edges, so you can go to your favourite cafe or restaurant along the edge facing north. Little play space. We know if we have sand and water for little kids, they will be happy there for hours. So every grandparent should appreciate that. And there's some other nature play elements in there. There's also plenty of spaces to sit and meet friends. And this is our main feature, which runs up between the buildings. And again, some retail surrounding and lots of planting. And around each of the buildings, you can see quite a generous verge, lots of trees. And this is an indication of the kind of activities that you'll see on site. You know, meeting friends, playing in the water play, sitting on an amphitheatre, so watching performances, etc. It's all set up for that. Having lots of, you know, lovely cups of coffee, etc. And really, I think the pictures say a lot. And really, it is about this experience of being kind of in a wonderland of planting. It's about deep shadows. It's about the sound of a bird. It's about your kids, you know, not doing what's expected, exploring a little bit, having a play. It's about having a great coffee, Movable chairs are a really good asset. You can move them around to where the sun is or to where the shade is. You know, there's some sort of choice there. But there's also a lot of additional spaces where you can sit just informally for free, meet people and enjoy the green space. Looking back, you can see the amphitheatre on the left there, the central space with a large fig. And back to Lacebark here with the drums that William's spoken about and the beautiful sculptural form, really, of that building.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course you can.
What you've got there is beautifully designed, but at the initial phases, are they going to bring in mature trees, or are they just going to bring little shrubs this high?
No.
And then wait 20 years before they get to that size?
You can make these guys sign up to that. We have. Yeah, and look, this has had, we do a lot of these projects, and generally, you know, they are of a really high standard. So when people come to Aspect, they know what they're going to get. And yes, every effort, in fact, they've been pushing us to make it greener, more green. So they're totally aware, thank you for that. And they're aware of the complexities of getting trees, etc. And we've had lots of quotes and lots of discussions with suppliers, etc. So yes, it will feel quite green day one. So this is down on Solnit Circuit, looking up at that stair, the retail beyond, and then up to that upper plaza. Again, that view, Lacebark to the left, Banksia to the right. And we were really specific about this being a joyful journey. It's not a place you want to just know, it's a place you want to discover. It's a place where, you know, you might think it's great, you know, sitting here one day, but then the next day you discover something different. And we know that that's important for excellent places. And I think we're over now to Andy for questions and answers.
I'm going to throw to the floor. I have a list of questions that I'm keen to fire away at these guys, and I'll ask them towards the end. But if anyone has a question, please raise your hand and we'll be sure to give you a microphone and away we go. Sir in the pink top, I think you had a hand raised earlier. Did you have a question? Yeah.
I mean, I'm very impressed with the landscaping and the project. The question is this exclusive only to the Norwest quarter or is open to the public?
Yep, so with the landscape in this space, it's public space. So anyone can walk through it and it's really, I think it will feel very much like your space, but a shared space. So yes, it is public.
I want to sort of go into that. In addition to that, next to the common room, there's a private space in there, which has the outdoor kitchen and so forth. We've done a number of projects where we've made this open, and a very good example, if you want to see that, is in Randwick. It's called Newmarket, and there's a part of it that's cafes and, you know, Messina ice cream and so forth, and there's another part of it that's very garden orientated. It's really worthwhile visiting that because it doesn't feel. It never gets badly used. It never gets misappropriately used. And people are very responsible in the space, but it has a generousness there that's very good to see.
And we know that spaces like this that are quite surveyed, we call it passive surveillance. What it means is there's lots of eyes on that space all the time because of the apartments. They're incredibly safe, you know, and they're loved because the people on the balcony are looking, you know, making sure it's a great space. It was interesting as we were designing this, we thought the great view was towards the lake. And not far in, we're going, actually, I want to be on the plaza. So it was a really interesting process.
It's kind of, there's three tiers to the outdoor spaces. There's the ground plane, which is fully public, and then you move up into the podium, so the podium rooftop. So in Banksia, there's an extensive outdoor area with a pool there, and in Lacebark there's also the outdoor area, and then you move up into your private balcony. So there's those three sort of different zones for different uses.
With this two new building coming into place, has any plan been put in about easing the traffic? Because at the moment it's really bad already.
A good question. So as part of Malfa's works, they were responsible for upgrading the traffic lights on the end of Solent. So Malfa put in those traffic lights on the eastern end of Solent, and we're making a contribution to put in traffic lights on the western side.
we were quite conscious in terms of how we designed the internal basements. You know, the residents have a separate tee-off, so once you come across that threshold from Solent, you don't go through the retail car park down to your car park. It tees off to go straight down to a full level for Banksy and a full level for Lacebark. So once you're in the development, it's quite separate from the retail. There is also contributions going to council to upgrade the roads, and council are looking at that at the moment. They are doing a regional study of the whole area and working out how those contributions go to upgrading infrastructure and road infrastructure.
The question directed towards Malfa. With recent publicity about failure of developers and builders, building apartments and developments like this, what guarantees do potential purchasers have should, say, I think you're going to appoint Parkview Apartments to developers? What reassurances do we have that if they were, say, to fall over, that doesn't jeopardise our investment?
Yeah, very good question. So you're right, we have been working with Parkview over the course of the last year of the documentation, so that, you know, that brings a builder in to ensure that what we're designing, the whole design team has a builder's input to make sure that it's a buildable design and there's no, you know, issues in that. We're also taking the design quite far. You know, a lot of builders will, a lot of developers will take a design to a point, say 30-50% resolution, and then give it to a builder and let them fill in all the blanks. We've taken it all the way up to 80% with the design team, and we'll stay very much involved. And this whole team is moving over to the builder to make sure that that design is implemented correctly. So up front, we're making sure that we do that. Malfa have a whole team that ensure that during construction, we have people that go out and make sure that the builder, whether it be Parkview, and you know, it's quite likely that it will be them, build it correctly. So we've got a clerk of works that's there 3 out of the 5 days, checking everything that they build. In terms of after completion, you know, Malfa's been around here for 25 years, so there's a long legacy of development here. We've got another 20 years of development, so it's not in our interest to go anywhere. And we do stand by all of our products. If you talk to people that have bought into Haven or Essentia, I think they will definitely confirm that we stand by our product, probably go way above what is typically required. There are a lot of statutory changes that have happened recently. I won't go into all of them, but there's a lot more scrutiny on developers. There's a developer bond that we've got to put up for the first few years. There's 2% of the construction cost. There's a couple new acts that have come in the last couple of years, so we're definitely trying to take the right approach.
I'll just add to that as well, and that is an excellent question. Look, ProBuild obviously being a Tier 1 builder, Parkview being a Tier 1 builder, Parkview specialise in apartment building, which, you know, was part of the reason we were drawn to them, although we did tender the process. So we are doing our own financial checks and audits on Parkview at the moment, just to make sure they are sound. We haven't signed anything with them yet, but the whole industry has been spooked by ProBuild, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that doesn't happen. I would just second what Jan has said. Malfa does have a healthy balance sheet, and there's also a number of staff that have actually already bought into the development, and they want to see it completed as well. And that's also a testament to the development too, because I personally have never seen a development where so many of the staff have bought in. I think that speaks volume to what it is we're trying to achieve. So, okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Entrances and exits for the cars, where are they coming off? Which road?
Sure, great question. Solent Circuit, I hope you, did you want to maybe...
Coming off the Matura Rise,
yes.
I hope not?
No, all Solent. So 2 entries over here. So vehicle entry have their own entry, and then loading dock has its own entry. So they both come in here. So left in, left out.
Both.
Yeah. So it's a combined basement across both.
Oh.
Yeah, that's correct.
True though that you are selling single room units with no car space.
There are a few. Yeah. So it'll be the Lacebark building.
How many? What's that?
There are, I think, there are 9 one-beds without a car space.
So where are they supposed to go? Park? They've got nowhere to park.
Yeah, so there is, it's price point driven. We do want to attract a new market to the development. There are also 5 go-gets in the development, electric go-gets, and there's a resident electric vehicle. So For anybody in the development that want to hire a car, there's an electric vehicle that anybody can use, any resident can use. So you've got 6 vehicles to choose from, 5 public and 1 for residents only. And that 1 resident electric vehicle can be expanded. So if it's successful in development, that can be increased.
My daughter was interested in buying a 1-bedroom, no I don't need that, a 1-bedroom apartment. Pulled out because there was no car parking attached to it. Couldn't get, so where was she supposed to park? On the street? Can't park on the street.
Yeah. I would just jump in and say that I reckon our company employs 45 people, and I would say only about 20% now have cars. There's a whole generation of younger people that only hire a car through GoGet and use bikes and public transport. There's a whole... So I'm quite surprised there's only 9, to be fair. It's so many, and Donatus who's come here, he doesn't have a car, he'll always be renting one through GoGet.
So if she bought one, she's got nowhere to park. She's supposed to walk over to the train or something, is she, or what?
I think 9 apartments within such a vast development, there'll be a market for people who want that, and your daughter should buy one with a car space.
Yeah, and that is true. And that is correct. And our market research has given us those insights. So it is that the connectivity I spoke earlier about to the metro station, other forms of transport around the area. People will buy in without a car and travel by public transport.
Is that a new trend or what's going on?
It's been going on around the world for decades. Australia's slowly catching up. I have another question at the back there. I might pass. Thank you.
My quick question is that you talk about 4 vehicles. There's more than 4 lots of families in these complex. How is it thought that it's going to manage this where someone just randomly walks down and says, oh, I'll take one of these today? How is it thought that you're going to manage that? Because I see that as a bit of an issue when someone drives off in it and leave it across the road because it's not charged up and they come back and maintenance of those vehicles. How do you foresee dealing with that as an issue?
Thank you. Great question, Jan. You're the tech head. I'll pass that to you.
So it's all managed by an external provider. So GoGet take complete responsibility for that. That's housed in the retail car park. So it's not the responsibility of the owner's corp to manage that. It's completely in a separate stratum. So retail, GoGet, you book on their platform, the vehicle has to go out and come back, and GoGet manage that.
And there's a cost involved with it?
Yes. Yes. So the members in Norwest Quarter have no membership fee. So you're a member by default. You then pay for the use of those cars. For the resident electric vehicles, MULF will be covering the membership costs for that, which is in the order of $80,000 for the first few years of that. And there is a small then charge for those vehicles to go out and come back as well. And that's also on a booking. There's no cost for the owner's corp for that either. That's externally managed.
So, just in the way of like electric charging ports for residents, sorry, is that what you were just touching on, or?
So yeah, the electric charging was really important to the design. So any resident vehicle can upgrade to an EV charger now or in the future. So the substation's been sized. All of the technology allow for any vehicle to upgrade to EV. Yeah, and there are DC chargers as well. So yeah.
And just one more question. Yep. I heard you say before double glazing. So is that definitely happening? Or, so is it just double or are we going triple? Or I'm just cautious of the fact that, like, for example, I know multiple people who are in Esplanade, and because it is such a public area, I mean, it's an awesome vibe down here, but when there's like slightly older people trying to get to sleep, it can be really annoying. Yeah. So just like interested to know what kind of soundproof.
Yeah, so it's all double glazed throughout, and it's also high performance glass, which means it looks clear, but it has a very high insulation value. And that means that you get less radiant heat coming through the glass or leaving the glass. It'll stay warmer in winter, stay cooler in summer. And the acoustics are excellent for double glazing with the sound seals we'll be putting on there.
Your television points, are they located in different locations where you say that's where your TV is, end of story, or do you have a bit of flexibility where you can have those sorts of points for your communication?
Sure. Who wants to answer this?
Yeah, we've really considered where those points are in the space. We've done the layouts of the interior apartments in response to that. So we do have dedicated areas. We obviously set the interior out to perform at its best, with the best views, with the best access to sunlight, and the best orientations. And we provided things like your TV points and that in those, the best locations for those. Yeah.
In terms of your question about flexibility, we don't often accept change as to where those are. Where we see a plan where there could be two alternate locations for a TV, like a living area, if the TV could go on one wall or the other, we'd allow for both, so that allow that flexibility. But yeah, the more changes we have, the slower it takes for a builder to actually manage all of those little changes, and unlikely that will actually come through.
Why is it important to have all native planting?
That is a good question. It's important because, there is a whole world of nature to consider that humans are currently, responsible for changing that environment significantly. And it's really important that we learn to give something back. It is great because it's, has lower needs for water. It's great because it provides habitat, and we know that's a really important thing. I mean, you don't kind of realise it until you see your favourite bird turn up, or the strange butterfly. But once you start seeing those things, you really need them. You feel like this is a really important thing to be part of a bigger ecosystem.
I might ask a question of you, Jan. When will Lacebark be built?
So we're looking to start construction in June, so actually land on site in the beginning of June, and completion for the whole precinct is late 24. So they'll be constructed together. Lacebark finishes a few months before Banksia, but both handed over late 24.
Excellent. William, where do you get your inspiration and influence, and what influences your design process?
Often it's by researching the history. I go back and look at that. Then it's marrying it with planning, and I have this phrase called design from the inside out. I always believe in looking for beautiful spaces, great functional planning, and then after that I kind of want to make it beautiful. Like at some point, can you embrace the environment, think about the history, do great planning, and then encapsulate it into something beautiful? And there's, these curved balconies on the project will be very distinctive, and a part of that is just the joy of architecture. Can you design a building that will be more than just for the residents, more than functionality, is kind of joyous to look at, is a landmark to the area, and becomes something that we remember and changes our city.
Excellent, thank you, and I think that's very evident in the design of Lacebark, so thank you for your response. Jan, can you explain what kind of retailers we might have in Norwest Quarter on completion?
Yeah, sure. I suppose an overarching comment, we were having the discussion earlier, you see a lot of developments where developers are compelled to have retail on the bottom, and it's kind of an afterthought that they are so focused on the apartments that the retail gets left to last and it's empty. Malfa are very different. They are very ingrained in the retail. We own Market Town Shopping Centre across the road, and various other shopping centres, so we know retail. We've been very careful in how we approach the retail to make sure that it works for retailers, and that we curate that retail really well. So immediately, in the next couple of months, we'll be going out to approach for the two big anchor tenants, which will be the Urban Grocer on Solent. As you approach that main staircase on the right, which is sort of a 900 square metre grocer, and then the gym tenant. So that'll be quite a large, sort of 1,300 square metre commercial gym. We went the commercial gym route because we saw in a lot of our developments that the gyms that we put in were not utilised as well as a commercial gym. Lower the strata levies because only the people that use it pay for it, and you just get a better outcome. So there's a gym, there's an Urban Grocer, there's 500 square metres of restaurants and cafes, and there's about another 500 square metres of outdoor space. There's medical, there's sort of shops, So there's a variety of mixes trying to create this sort of village approach, but very curated. It's not anybody that comes will take. We definitely want to get the right tenants in for that and have them all open. When this building opens, that they're all opening at the same time to make it a whole, the ground plane completely activated.
And there is only one answer to this, by the way. Would you live in this building and why? William, do you want to go first?
No. Just kidding. Why? I mean, I would have to have a penthouse because you've got to. But I kind of love the planning of it. I think the planning is great. I feel like the material palette on offer has lots of versatility. So you could make it very modern. You could make it more casual. I like the connection to the outdoors. The views are beautiful from the space. It's spaced apart from other buildings. Those kinds of reasons.
Thank you, Louise.
Look, I think it is really beautiful, and I know William and I know what he does, so I would have a great deal of faith that I would be getting something quite special. And I think the way that the public domain is working and the joy that people will get from that will be quite unique and very special in this environment.
Yeah, great. So I take it that's a yes.
Yeah.
And my hand to you, Stephanie.
Yes, absolutely.
Good answer.
Just to echo William's point, yes, the space planning is highly considered. Connection to nature, connection to the outdoors, but also the expression of the architecture is beautiful, stunning, contemporary gateway building to the precinct, and obviously the integration with the landscape as well. That plaza connecting the two buildings is fabulous, and all the amenity that will be on offer as well. So absolutely.
Excellent, thank you. And I know your answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
I'm going to go against the trend and say no because I've already bought it. Thanks, but I'm sorry for the question. Decision probably take one in each. But it's an absolutely beautiful building, and seeing it today just reinforces that.
I just wanted to close by mentioning tonight marks the official launch of Lacebark. We are launching levels 3 to 9 tonight. So if you're interested, our sales guys are here with us. Alan Sullivan. Al, might get you to raise your hands. Most of you know Al already. Thank you. And Chetan Bhatt standing next to Al. Thank you, Chetan. If you have any questions, by all means, please chew their ears off. So levels 3 to 9, that's 49 apartments of the 81 that sit in the Lacebark building. We released Banksia about 3 weeks ago now. We've had a phenomenal response to Banksia. We released 72 apartments in that release, and I think we're about a third sold already. So look, they're doing very, very well. It's a good run rate in 3 weeks. There's been big sort of anticipation for Williams Building to come onto the market. And look, seeing the numbers that have turned up tonight reinforces that. So thank you very much for your time. Please enjoy the nibbles and the drinks behind us all here. I really appreciate you spending an evening with us. And if any of you have any questions of me, I'll be floating around and more than happy to answer those. Thank you very much. Good night.